everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the IELTS exam and how to get that coveted Band 9 score. A lot of you listening are probably working towards that right now, whether it's for university admissions, immigration, or just to prove you've really mastered English.
That's right. A high IELTS score really can be a game changer. And it's not just about being fluent, it's about knowing the test inside and out, kind of like having a secret strategy guide.
Okay, I like where this is going. So it's not just about knowing English perfectly, it's about cracking the code of the exam itself. I'm ready to decode.
Well then, let's start with the listening section. Seems pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
But trust me, there are some twists and turns.
Yeah, I've heard the IELTS listening can be a bit of a wild ride with all those different accents they throw in there.
Exactly. You've got British, American, Canadian, Australian. It's like a global tour of English all packed into one test.
Wow. Yeah, if you're only used to hearing one kind of English, that can definitely throw you off.
Absolutely. So tip number 1, get those ears accustomed to a variety of accents. BBC News, NPR podcasts, even Australian cooking shows, whatever fleets your boat. The more diverse, the better.
Makes sense. Gotta train my ears for a world of English.
Now here's the real pro tip. Shadowing. Listen to native speakers and try to repeat what they're saying, like you're their echo.
Shadowing. Huh. That sounds like a fun challenge.
It is, and it really works. It helps you pick up on the nuances of pronunciation, intonation, all that good stuff.
So I'm not just trying to understand, I'm actually trying to sound like them too. That's pretty cool, actually.
It is. Okay, but beyond accents, there's another key to conquering the listening. Prediction.
Prediction? Like I can predict what they're going to say.
Well, not exactly, but almost.
Yeah.
Before the audio starts, take a good look at those questions. Often you can get a feel for the kind of information you need to listen for. Is it a number, a name, a location?
Oh, I see. So like if the question says the lecture starts at blank, I know I need to be ready for a time.
Exactly. And don't get hung up on hearing the exact words from the question. The IELTS loves to paraphrase, using synonyms and different ways to express the same idea.
Oh, that's sneaky.
It is, but once you're onto their tricks, it's all good.
Okay, so keywords, synonyms, gotta be ready for anything. Now, what about those moments when you hear a word you've never encountered in your life?
Ah, the dreaded unknown vocabulary.
Right. That's when my brain just freezes.
I know, it happens to the best of us. But here's the thing. You don't need to understand every single word to ace the IELTS. It's more about getting the gist, the overall meaning.
Okay, that's a relief.
So if a word totally throws you off, don't panic. Just keep listening, focus on the context, and you can often figure out the meaning from the surrounding words and sentences.
So it's like being a detective using the clues to solve the mystery of the missing vocabulary.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the better you'll become at cracking those codes. Now, ready to tackle the reading section?
Bring it on.
Yeah.
But I do have a confession. I tend to be a very thorough reader. Like I want to read every single word carefully.
I feel you. I used to be the same way. But in the IELTS reading, time is your biggest enemy. It's all about speed and accuracy, so you got to learn to be a bit more strategic.
Strategic. Okay, I like that.
So instead of reading every word, try this. Skimming. Just like you'd skim headlines to get a general idea, skim the passage quickly to get the gist.
Okay, skimming. So not deep reading, just getting the main points.
Right. Then when you go to the questions, use scanning.
Scanning. Okay, so I'm looking for specific keywords related to the question.
Exactly. It's like using your brain as a search engine.
I can do that. So skim for the overview, scan for the details.
And remember, those sneaky synonyms and paraphrases we talked about. They're back in the reading section too.
Oh, right, of course. So even if the words in the question don't exactly match the passage, the meaning might be the same.
Exactly. Got to keep those synonym detectors on high alert.
Okay, I'm ready to scan and detect.
Now, here's a tip that can save you a lot of time and stress. Don't overthink.
Oh, overthinking is my specialty.
Yeah.
I can spend way too long agonizing over 2 answer choices.
I know the feeling. But trust me, most of the time, your first instinct is the right one.
Really? So if I've read carefully and considered the keywords, I should just go with my gut.
Exactly. If you're really unsure, mark it and move on. You can always come back to it if you have time at the end.
That's actually really helpful. It's like giving myself permission to trust my instincts.
Exactly. Now, ready to tackle the big one.
The writing section. Gulp.
It can seem daunting, but don't worry, we'll break it down. First things first, make sure you understand the specific requirements of each task.
Right, there are 2 different tasks, right?
Yes. Task 1 is all about describing data, like charts, graphs, tables. Task 2 is where you get to show off your persuasive essay skills.
Okay, so knowing exactly what each task is asking for is crucial.
Absolutely. Going off topic is a surefire way to lose points.
Got it. Now, when it comes to vocabulary, I always thought bigger was better, impressing the examiners with fancy words.
That's a common misconception. While a strong vocabulary is definitely important, examiners are actually more impressed by clarity and precision.
Really? So it's not about showing off my vocabulary?
Not necessarily. It's more about using the right words for the job, whether they're simple or complex.
So if big gets the point across clearly, that's fine. But if a more precise word like immense or colossal is a better fit, then I should go for it.
Exactly. Choose the word that most accurately conveys your meaning.
Okay, precision over flashiness. Got it.
Now, speaking of clarity, let's talk about structure. A well-organized essay is like a work of art. Every paragraph flows smoothly into the next.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the secret formula for a Band 9 essay structure?
Think of it like building a house. You start with a strong foundation, which is your introduction. Paraphrase the question, state your opinion clearly, and set the stage for what's to come.
Got it. The introduction is like the blueprint for the whole essay.
Exactly. Then you build the walls, which are your body paragraphs.
Okay, and each paragraph should focus on one main idea, right?
Right. And make sure to back up your points with evidence and examples. Think peel point, explanation, example, link.
Peel! I like it. It's like a recipe for a perfect paragraph.
And finally, you top it off with the roof, which is your conclusion. Summarize your main points, restate your opinion, and leave the reader with a sense of closure.
So a well-structured essay is like a well-built house. Solid foundation, strong walls, and a sturdy roof.
I like that analogy. Okay, now let's shift gears to the speaking section.
Uh-oh, here comes the part that makes me nervous.
Don't worry, it's not as scary as it seems. One of the biggest mistakes people make is giving short, one-word answers.
Oof, yeah, I've been there. Sometimes I get so nervous I just blurt out the first thing that comes to mind.
I understand, but remember, the examiners want to see you demonstrate your fluency and range of vocabulary.
So instead of just saying yes or no, I should try to elaborate and explain my reasoning.
Exactly. Give examples, tell stories, paint a picture with your words.
Okay, so like if they ask me, do you enjoy traveling? Instead of just saying yes, I could say something like, absolutely, I love exploring new cultures, trying different foods, and meeting people from all walks of life.
Perfect. You're showing them you can express yourself confidently and engage in a conversation.
That makes sense. But what about those moments when my brain just goes blank and I need a moment to think?
Don't worry, that's totally normal. Here's a little secret. Fillers are your friends.
Fillers? But I thought I was supposed to avoid those.
Not necessarily. Using natural fillers like, that's an interesting question, or let me think about that for a moment, can actually help you maintain fluency and avoid those awkward silences.
Oh, that's a good point. I always thought I had to sound super polished and avoid any kind of hesitation.
It's all about finding that balance between being prepared and sounding natural.
Natural, got it. I can do natural.
And speaking of natural, here's another tip. Record yourself speaking English.
Wait, really? I hate listening to my own voice.
I know, it can be a bit cringy, but it's one of the best ways to identify areas for improvement.
So I can hear myself like the examiners hear me.
Exactly. You'll notice things you might not realize otherwise, like pronunciation errors, pacing, or even those repetitive filler words we talked about.
Okay, you've convinced me. I'll give it a try.
And finally, here's the ultimate secret to achieving a Band 9 score. Think in English.
Whoa, think in English? That sounds advanced.
It's not as hard as it sounds, I promise. Start small, like narrating your daily activities in English, even if it's just simple things like, I'm making breakfast, or I need to go to the store.
Okay, so basically immerse myself in the language as much as possible.
Exactly. The more you can make English your default mode of thinking, the more naturally it will flow when you speak and write.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like creating an English bubble around myself.
Exactly. Soaking up the language like a sponge.
I like that image. So, we've covered a lot of ground today, from listening for accents to thinking in English. My brain is buzzing with all these tips and strategies.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. But remember, the key is to focus on the areas that feel most challenging for you. Practice those skills specifically, and don't be afraid to seek help from teachers, tutors, or online resources.
Right, we all have different strengths and weaknesses, so it's important to tailor our preparation to our individual needs.
Exactly. And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Don't get discouraged if you don't see results overnight.
That's a good reminder. It's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others, but we all learn at our own pace.
Absolutely. Consistent effort, even in small doses, can lead to significant improvement over time.
Okay, so small steps, consistent practice, and a whole lot of patience.
And don't forget the most important ingredient, belief in yourself.
Yes, believe in your ability to achieve that Band 9 score.
You got this. Now, ready to move on to some more specific strategies?
Absolutely. Let's dive even deeper. Okay, I'm feeling pumped and ready to conquer this exam. But you know, there are always those little details, those sneaky things that can trip you up on test day.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about the big strategies, it's about being mindful of all those little nuances that can make a difference.
Exactly. So what are some of those things that we might overlook in the heat of the moment?
Well, one thing that often gets overlooked is the importance of the instructions.
The instructions, really?
Yeah, it might seem obvious, but trust me, so many people lose points simply because they didn't read the instructions carefully.
Oh, I can see how that could happen. You're so focused on the questions themselves that you kind of skim over the instructions without really absorbing them.
Exactly. And even misinterpreting a single word can throw you off completely.
Okay, so tip number 1 for test day. Slow down, take a deep breath, and make sure I understand exactly what's being asked of me before I even start.
Exactly. Don't rush into it, be mindful, and make sure you're on the right track from the very beginning.
Got it. Mindfulness in action. Now, what about time management? I know we touched on it briefly, but that's a big one for me, especially in the writing section.
Oh yeah, time pressure can be a real killer, especially when you're trying to craft those perfect essays.
It's like my brain just goes into overdrive and I lose all track of time.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Think of your essays like building a house.
House. Okay.
You wouldn't start building without a blueprint, right?
Okay. Of course not. Chaos would ensue.
Exactly. The same goes for your essays. Spend a few minutes planning your structure and main points before you start writing.
Okay, so a little pre-planning can go a long way. That makes sense. But how do I actually break down those 40 minutes for task 2? It feels like such a short amount of time to write a whole essay.
It is. That's why having a system is so crucial. Try this. Dedicate the first 5 minutes to brainstorming ideas and creating a quick outline.
Okay, 5 minutes for planning, so that leaves 35 for the actual writing.
Well, not quite. You also need to factor in time for revising and editing.
Oh, right, of course. I always feel like I run out of time for that part.
That's why it's important to have a strategy. So after those initial 5 minutes of planning, spend about 25 minutes writing the essay, making sure each paragraph is clear, concise, and well supported.
Okay, 5 for planning, 25 for writing. So that leaves 10 minutes for revisions and editing.
Exactly. And those last 10 minutes are crucial.
So I shouldn't just rush through it. I need to actually allocate time for those final checks.
Absolutely. Read through your essay carefully, checking for any grammatical errors, spelling mistakes, unclear sentences.
Okay, got it. Planning, writing, editing, all within that 40-minute window, no pressure.
Just remember to stay calm, breathe, and stick to your plan.
Easier said than done, but I'll try my best. Now, what about the speaking section? We talked about expanding on answers, using fillers naturally. Any other tips for sounding confident and fluent?
Here's one that might surprise you. Be yourself.
Be myself in a formal exam setting.
Yes. Of course, you should be polite and respectful, but don't try to put on some kind of persona that isn't authentically you.
So I don't need to sound like a robot or a textbook. I can just be myself and let my personality shine through.
Exactly. The examiners want to see that you can communicate naturally and confidently.
Wow, that's actually really liberating. I was so worried about sounding too formal or rehearsed.
It's about finding that sweet spot between being prepared and being genuine.
Genuine, got it. So it's okay to smile, to use my hands when I talk, to let a little bit of my personality into the conversation.
Absolutely. Think of it as having a chat with a friend. You're sharing your ideas, expressing your opinions, and letting them get to know you a little bit.
That's a great way to look at it. It takes a lot of pressure off.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. From the importance of reading instructions to the power of being yourself. We've talked about time management, planning, editing, and finding that perfect balance between fluency and authenticity. My brain is buzzing.
It is a lot to take in, but remember, the key is to practice, practice, practice. The more you familiarize yourself with the format of the exam, the more comfortable you'll feel on test day.
Practice makes perfect, right? But what if I'm still feeling overwhelmed?
That's totally normal. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. There are so many resources available to help you prepare, from teachers and tutors to online courses and practice materials.
Right, and we all learn in different ways, so it's important to find what works best for you.
Exactly. Experiment, try different approaches, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Okay, so practice, resources, and a supportive community that sounds like a winning combination.
And don't forget the most important ingredient, belief in yourself.
Yes. Believe that you can do this, that you can achieve that Band 9 score.
You've got this. Now, ready to move on to something else.
Absolutely. Let's keep this momentum going. So much good stuff. But before we wrap up, I'm curious, out of all these amazing tips and strategies, which one has been the biggest aha moment for you? Like, which one are you most excited to try out in your own IELTS prep?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, it really highlights how each test taker's journey is so unique, right? What works for one person might not be the magic bullet for another.
Yeah, totally. It's like we've got this toolbox now filled with all these different tools, and we can choose the ones that work best for us.
Exactly. And the coolest thing is, achieving a Band 9, it's not just about the score itself, right? It's about all the doors it opens.
It's about the opportunities, the adventures waiting on the other side of that test.
Absolutely. Studying abroad, connecting with people from all over the world, even landing that dream job.
It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone and seeing what you're truly capable of.
And, you know, it's amazing how language learning can be so transformative. It's not just about memorizing words and grammar rules, it's about developing a whole new way of thinking, a new perspective on the world.
It's like you're unlocking a secret code that allows you to connect with people on a deeper level.
Absolutely. And as you continue on your IELTS journey, remember one thing, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's so true. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, when you question if you can really do this.
But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments that make the victory even sweeter.
It's about resilience, about picking yourself up and dusting yourself off and saying, okay, I'm ready to try again.
Exactly. And never lose sight of why you started this journey in the first place.
Keep that vision in your mind, that dream that's driving you forward.
And let it fuel your determination.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of IELTS, I want to leave you with this. What's one small step you can take today to move closer to your goal?
It could be anything, listening to an English podcast, reading an article, even having a short conversation with a language partner.
It doesn't have to be a huge leap, just one small step in the right direction.
Remember, progress is progress, no matter how small.
And we believe in you. You have the power to achieve your dreams. So keep practicing, keep learning, and keep that passion for language alive.
We're cheering you on every step of the way.
Until next time, happy studying, everyone.